You are being manipulated right now, not by a person, not by a screen, by a molecule, one that has quietly rewired the most powerful organ in the known universe, your brain, to crave it, chase it, and come back for more. And the scariest part, it's working perfectly. We're talking about sugar, and before you think you already know this story, you don't, because this isn't about calories or weight or guilty snacking. This is about what sugar is actually doing inside your brain at a chemical level, and it is genuinely disturbing. Let's start with a question nobody asks. Why does sugar taste good at all? Why does sweetness feel like a reward? Why does your brain light up for a cookie the same way it lights up when you fall in love? The answer goes back hundreds of thousands of years, and it explains everything. For almost all of human history, sweet foods were incredibly rare. Ripe fruit, wild honey, that was basically it, and both were packed with calories your ancestors desperately needed. So your brain evolved a powerful system. Find sweet things, feel amazing, eat as much as possible. The sweetest tooth survived. The ones who didn't crave sugar enough, they starved. Your love of sugar isn't a character flaw. It's a survival instinct so deeply baked into your biology that it helped determine whether your ancestors lived or died. The problem? Evolution moves at the pace of thousands of generations. The food industry moved in one, and they figured out exactly how to use your ancient brain against you. Here's what actually happens the moment sugar touches your tongue. Specialized proteins called sweet taste receptors fire instantly. They shoot a signal straight up through your brainstem, branching into multiple regions, including your cerebral cortex, the part that makes you consciously think, that's good. But that conscious thought is just the surface. Underneath it, something far older and far more powerful has already been activated. Your brain's reward system. And this is where the story gets wild. Your reward system is ancient. It existed long before humans could think, speak, or reason. It's a network of chemical and electrical pathways running across multiple brain regions, and it exists to answer one single question your brain asks automatically about everything you do. Should I do that again? When the answer is yes, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical of wanting. Not quite pleasure, more like the urgent, burning feeling of I need more of that. It's released by food, by sex, by social connection, by achieving something you worked hard for. And it is released powerfully by sugar. The moment that sweet signal arrives, your reward system floods with dopamine. Your brain stamps the experience. This is good. This is important. Do not forget this. Find it again. That's not a choice. That's chemistry. Now here's what makes sugar uniquely dangerous. Eat the same healthy meal every day and something interesting happens. The dopamine response gets weaker each time. Your brain habituates. It stops rewarding the familiar and starts nudging you towards something new. This is actually brilliant design. By rewarding variety, your brain pushed your ancestors to diversify their diet and get every nutrient they needed. It kept them alive. But sugar doesn't habituate the same way. It keeps hitting the reward system hard again and again, no matter how many times you've had it. Your brain never gets bored of sugar. It just gets hungrier for it. They're reporting how much sugar is incoming. They're telling your pancreas to release insulin. They're influencing whether you feel full or still hungry. Your entire digestive system is in a constant two-way conversation with your brain about sugar, and most of that conversation is happening completely below your awareness. Two separate signal pathways, both pushing your brain in the same direction toward more. Now let's talk about the comparison nobody wants to make, but the science forces us to. Drugs like heroin, cocaine, nicotine, and alcohol all work by hijacking your dopamine system. They flood it. They overwhelm it. And your brain responds by doing something logical but catastrophic. Tea reduces its own sensitivity to dopamine. It literally dials down its receptors to compensate for the flood. And now you need more of the drug just to feel normal. This is tolerance. This is the engine of addiction. And researchers have identified the same three-stage pattern in overconsumption of sugar. Stage 1, loss of control. You meant to have one. You had 6. Not because you're weak, because the dopamine signal is louder than your intention. Stage 2, craving. You think about sugar when you're not even hungry. Your brain keeps returning to it like a song stuck in your head. Stage 3, tolerance. The amount that used to feel satisfying no longer does. The bliss point keeps shifting upward. You need more sweet sweetness to get the same hit you used to get from less. Sound familiar? That's your reward system being slowly recalibrated by sugar. Sugar is not heroin. That comparison is too far. But the mechanism, dopamine, tolerance, craving, loss of control, is similar enough that researchers take it seriously. And the food industry understood this long before the scientists did. There's a term used inside food companies called the bliss point. It's the precise combination of sugar, fat, and salt that produces maximum craving with minimum satisfaction. Not enough to fill you up, just enough to make you desperately want another bite. This isn't accidental. It is engineered. Food scientists spend enormous resources, and I mean enormous, calculating this ratio for every single product. The goal was never to nourish you. The goal was to make sure you come back, and it works on your ancient reward system like a key in a lock. Here's the important thing though, and this is where most sugar conversations go completely wrong. Sugar itself is not the enemy. Your brain runs almost exclusively on glucose. Every cell in your body uses it for fuel. Zero sugar isn't the goal. Zero sugar would kill you. The real problem is speed. When you eat sugar inside a whole piece of fruit, it comes packaged with fiber. That fiber slows everything down. The sugar enters your bloodstream gradually. The dopamine spike is gentle. Your gut sensors have time to signal fullness. Your brain gets a calm, measured response. But when you drink a can of soda or eat a processed snack, all of that buffering is gone. The sugar hits your bloodstream like a wave. The dopamine spike is sharp and fast. And before your fullness signals have even had time to register, you've already had far more than your body needed. Your body never evolved for that speed. Your brain never evolved for that intensity. And the food industry spent decades making sure every product they sell delivers exactly that as fast as possible. So what actually happens to a brain that lives in this environment long term? The dopamine receptors start to downregulate, the same way they do with drugs. The baseline dulls. Ordinary food starts to taste bland. Things that used to bring pleasure, a walk outside, a conversation, a simple meal, feel slightly flat. Not because those things changed, because your reward system has been reset to expect a level of stimulation that real life can't provide. You're not less happy, you're just running on a system that's been tuned for something that only exists in a factory. And here's the part that should genuinely alarm you. This isn't happening slowly over decades. Studies show measurable changes in dopamine sensitivity in people who regularly consume high sugar diets within weeks. Your brain adapts fast. Far faster than most people realize. So what do you actually do with this information? The research is consistent on one thing. You cannot willpower your way out of this. Telling someone to just eat less sugar is like telling someone to just breathe less when they're panicking. The craving isn't coming from choice. It's coming from chemistry. What actually works is changing the signal. Every time you replace a fast sugar hit with a slower one, fruit instead of juice, whole grains instead of white bread, an actual meal instead of a snack, you're not just eating differently. You're giving your reward system a different kind of input to adapt to. The first week is the hardest. Irritability, fatigue, low mood, intense cravings, that's your dopamine system recalibrating. It's real, it's temporary, and it's the clearest proof that what you were dealing with wasn't just a sweet tooth, it was a trained response. But here's what happens on the other side. Foods that seem tasteless before start tasting rich. A piece of fruit becomes genuinely satisfying in a way it hasn't been in years. Your baseline resets, the pull weakens. Not because sugar got less sweet, because your brain learned to hear quiet signals again. You were never broken, you were never weak. You were handed an ancient brain and dropped into an environment specifically engineered by some of the smartest people on the planet to exploit every vulnerability in it. Knowing that doesn't make the craving disappear overnight, but it changes something important, because the moment you understand that the pull toward sugar is a biological mechanism, not a personal failure, you stop fighting yourself and start working with your own brain instead of against it. The system can be recalibrated. The receptors grow back. The baseline shifts. It just takes time, consistency, and the understanding that what you're up against isn't weakness, it's evolution. And evolution, it turns out, can be retrained.